Hello everyone, on today's episode we're going to talk about the psychological principle of transference. Hello everyone, we're going to go through some psychological principles today. We're going to go through transference, which is key to psychoanalytic behaviour, really help you understand yourself, and is a key factor in why so many people continually repeat the mistakes of the past. So as always, I'm going to begin with a quote, and that quote is, "Transference is essentially a compulsion to return to our past in order to clear up emotionally backlogged business." David Richo. So what is transference? Transference is something that we continually do, where we take traumas and problems from the past and we apply them to current situations. Now, this is a recipe for disaster. Every unique event in the universe needs your undivided attention to that moment, not dragging in stories of the past. This is how relationships fail so often, is that people treat their boyfriends like their fathers, they treat their wives like their mothers, and they constantly impose unbelievable expectations or principles on people who simply they shouldn't apply to. So a more in-depth conversation about transference from the text would be: transference is a phenomenon characterized by unconscious redirection of feelings from one person to another. One definition of transference is the inappropriate repetition in the present of a relationship that was important in a person's childhood. Another definition, the redirection of feelings and desires, and especially of those unconscious, retained from childhood towards a new object. Still, another definition is a reproduction of emotions relating to repressed experiences, especially of childhood, and the substitution of another person for the original object of the repressed impulses. Transference was first described by psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud, who was acknowledging its importance for psychoanalysts for a better understanding of patients' feelings. What you repress, you manifest, and getting to know yourself is to get to know the scammers, the repeating habits from your past that are continually creating problems in your future and your present. And transference and understanding that is key. People who understand transference shine the light of consciousness on it, and they can change it. So many people just live in the world of transference, constantly role-playing and acting out the same relationships, the same problems with their bosses, same problems with colleagues, and ultimately it will not be addressed until they look at what is causing these challenges. So how do we understand transference better? Number one, understand it's normal. Don't stress out. This is something that all human behaviour gets modelled on, especially in our current society. We have our formative caregivers, generally our parents, and we have no clue what the world is like when we're a child outside of how our parents interact. It doesn't matter that there's cars, planes in the sky. As a baby, all you want to know is how humans interact with each other, and you're watching very closely. You will pick up in the first 3 of your lives, you're modelling for love, relationships, what it means to be masculine, what it means to be feminine. And if you're in a challenging situation for those first 3 years, there can be some real problems arise. But no parents are perfect, and we all pick up incorrect behaviour patterns by modelling our world on such a small amount of people. Number two, modelling people's behaviours on our parents. So once again, going back to understanding that when you're a child, your entire universe consists of either 1 or 2 people, and no one is perfect, and our parents went through very difficult, challenges just like we did, and they carried on behaviour traits modelled from the transference of their parents, so it can be a linear sort of progress. Understanding that yes, your parents aren't perfect and you're not perfect either. However, by realising and cutting them a break for not being perfect, you can start to look at the habits that you've taken on. Number 3, ignoring reality. The moment is clouded. Transference is all about that backpack of stories that you carry with yourself that you think is so important, that you identify with. You go, I'm Brad, this is the story of my life, and you bring it to every conversation. That's like wearing glasses that are fogged behind a whole story. You know what it's like when the credits of a film are rolling down, but you're trying to see the picture behind it, but it's clouded by all the text. That's what it's like when you bring transference in the current moment. 4, causes most relationship failures. Most relationships disintegrate and deteriorate because of the unfair expectations or the projections of the characteristics of someone onto another. I've seen this play out personally in my life, and I can see quite often it's very powerful in regards to the way that fathers treated their daughters and how daughters will ultimately project onto men they get into relationships with. This is also true of men. Men quite often looking for a mother, looking for the tendencies of their mother in a partner, which never bodes well because ultimately those relationships are very different. We are not always conscious of it. This is really important to understand. So many people live their lives that in an unconscious state, and when I talk to people about, awakening or looking at different ways to live your life in a much more joyous pattern, quite often they just look at me perplexed because they're not conscious of it. And in their reality, if you're not conscious of it, it doesn't exist. If you're not aware of something, it couldn't be true. You went to school, you went to uni, you're a very intelligent person. How could you not know of some of these things? And in many ways, they're right. Until they look at it consciously, it doesn't exist. And that's the problem. That's the problem with most of our lives, is that we never consciously observe our actions out of the current moment without the cloud of all the other challenges. Know thyself. You've heard the story from the first week of videos where Alexander the Great had to spend a week at Delphi with the sign, know yourself. Know yourself. Once you know your behaviours, your triggers and your patterns, you can overcome them. Word association, ink blocks. You may have heard of word association, where someone says a word and you respond back with the first thing that comes into your mind. And the Rorschach ink blots, which people look at ink blots which are nothing, but they were asked to make a picture out of it. And what happens in this is a very clever tool on helping people understand they do have fireback mechanisms. If I say to you up and you say down, you weren't born with that. You weren't born with the contrast of up and down, and you say it automatically. But for some people, you could say up, and they'll go to the top, will be their exact phrasing. So it's not inbuilt, and you make your own story as you go. Understanding this very simple point: the past does not equal the future. Now, this is not some new age junk. This is what statistical analysis is used by. Current trends form future behavior. That's how an analyst looks at a situation. The past does not equal the future. Where we've gone wrong so many times is we've looked at the past and applied it to current situations, not knowing that that information's already dead. What you're doing right now and the next decision you make is the most important decision of your life. Second to last, a process to allow you to awaken, but still a hurdle. These are hurdles, but they're there in order to build resistance to overcome them. A lot of people, including myself, believe that your karmic journey involves many subjective experiences and many life forms, and the quicker you can sort this out, the better the journey will be. And finally, forgive yourself and others now. There's a lot of things that you carry with you that aren't yours. Inside your backpack of collections of ego, there's stories written by other people. Some of them aren't great, but forgive them, because they were carrying the same backpack and they had no other understanding than to hand that backpack to you. Forgive them and forgive yourselves now. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.